leadership want to execute that strategy, I may have a different opinion, or I may think there
All
could be
right.
a better way to a classic example. Let's say if I'm into FMCG and if I have it's a go to market strategy, I may think it's a different other way should work around, which might
Okay.
differ from what my leadership thinks.
Okay. Fair. Fair. Yes, Mohammed, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it is in the corporate sector. Usually, the conflict is also about control. You know, controlling the project. For example, if I am a project manager, I am controlling my people, my team, my own way. But that might have that might have other people might have some different opinion about it. And the second one is that the strategy also. Strategy means why the conflict arises in strategy, because it is not communicated properly. Again, it links us to the communication.
All
The
right.
conflicts happen, sir, because of the main reason is the communication, vision communication, for example, and also open communication is not there. The top management is not disclosing everything to the people. Sometimes it happens in the corporate sector. I have
Right.
experienced
Fair.
this.
Got it. Fair. 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 Thanks. Yes, Sanjay, please go ahead.
So conflicts also occur due to interpretation. In the
That
sense
would be
that,
communication. See, interpretation,
yeah,
perception will be communication
okay, okay, yeah,
broadly.
yeah. So but in terms of not really in terms of contracts also. I mean, if you look at a particular recruitment and depending on it can happen due to difference in the way in which people have learned two things. So I mean, maybe it's a different way of the approach of this novel. Does that? I mean, it's different from communication in that way, but it would be more about the way people have interpreted a particular scenario and
Fair.
saying that this is how we look at a thing, and this is why we do that.
Why would people interpret scenarios differently?
So it depends on the way in which uh, uh, they have faced with such things earlier, right? It's based on history, personal history, or based on the way in which their goals, I mean, the way in which they have lived their life, right? Or the way in which they've experienced the
Okay,
organization.
right. The way they brought up,
Yeah,
their
yeah, I mean,
personality is
yeah.
right. All right. Uh, yes, I'll listen to Super and Warren because they have raised hands, but then I'll pause for a while, Abhishek, because I've taken once your view, and then we'll move on to the next segment. So yes, Suparna, please go ahead.
Yes, so in corporate, majorly these conflicts they arise because of promotions and the marks allotted in the PMS.
And why would
And that
see, I think
raises
that's a very
plenty
black and
of
white thing.
and
People, you have been allotted the marks or you allot someone the marks based on their performance. Is that not true?
so there is always not fairly the marks are given because then
Sorry?
the marks are not given fairly.
Oh, wait. Are you trying to say that the people who evaluate you are unfair?
Yes, it's not like that, but as
They are not allotted fairly means they are
no,
unfair.
sir, there's a ratio for each and every designation promotion. So they have to move forward some candidates and some they have to reject it. Accordingly,
Then
they
it's a
give.
fair system, right?
Pardon, sir?
Then it's a fair system.
Yes. Because sir,
You get
in
what
the
I'm saying.
process,
I-
in
So
the
that's the
process, of
point.
many good works they get ignored because
So
there's
then it's unfair.
yes, sir.
Then it is unfair.
So sometimes it is fair,
All
sometimes
right.
it is unfair.
I'm not forcing you to say that someone is unfair, but that's what you are hinting, and you got what I'm saying. Fair. Fair. I got your point. Yes, Paul, please go ahead.
So, are you looking at personal conflicts also in this or only professional
Either,
conflicts?
see, either. When we talk about conflict or negotiation, it's not that you negotiate one way, you become a good negotiator in one domain, but in the other you don't. Conflicts you can
Yeah.
face in all walks of life. And
Personal finance between the wife and husband, basically, on your spending, the way you spend. Yeah, so that would be a conflict.
of
Her
course,
perception of expenses might differ from my perception. or even the education, like my perception of school or college that my son wants to go to, or what he wants to go in future. We might that might be it may differ on that. So
All of this can. Yeah. We have to cover entire ambit. Right? Now, if you see the screen, right, the conflicts that are on this side of the board versus the conflicts that are on this side of the board. Do you see any difference? The question is to the class. Do you see any difference between the two? Himanshu, please go ahead.
But on the right side, the value system, am I right or wrong, the way, the personality are all personal reason, right? And the ones on the left are very specific to the business ecosystem. Right? Maybe the compensation record.
I would extend it. It's not only about business ecosystems. I didn't write it. The board is full. But what Warren said, right, that if there is a conflict between a husband and a wife regarding what should they do with their kid, what degree should they have, or how should they manage the finances, that also will fall in this side only. Now, what are we trying to say is the conflicts that are on this side of the board are called task conflicts. Task conflicts are called good conflicts. Why good conflicts? Because these conflicts invoke discussions. These conflicts allow people to exchange ideas, views, opinions so as to make better decisions. So, when you have a good conflict, whether it is family, teams, organizations, it leads to better outcomes. You rightly pointed out that the conflicts that are on the right side of the board, that is on this side of the board, these conflicts are eventually called relationship conflicts. Why do I say relationship conflicts? Because here the conflict is not out there. So normally, assume that I have a conflict with you. If the conflict is out here, then it is a task. But the moment the conflict turns here, I have a conflict with you as a person. This is called relationship conflict. I mean, just imagine if you go and tell someone that, I am right, you are wrong. Who's going to like you? If you go and tell someone that I have a conflict with you because of the way you are brought up, I mean, how am I going to resolve it? If I go and tell someone I have a conflict with you because of your personality, how can I remove? Relationship conflicts are bad conflicts. These conflicts should not be there, whether in house, whether in organizations. These conflicts should be dissuaded. And this is where conflict management becomes tricky, because good conflicts needs to be persuaded. You need to persuade people to have good conflicts so as to have better decisions, more opinions and all. But at the same time, you will have to dissuade people from making or getting into bad conflicts. The problems, when we have task conflict on one side, when we have relationship conflict on another side, any unresolved task conflict will eventually lead to a relationship conflict. Any badly handled task conflict will lead to a relationship conflict. And any and a recurring task conflict. So a task conflict, when you resolve it, but it again comes up. You resolve it, but it again comes up. Any recurring task conflict will again lead to a relationship conflict. I'll give an example of each of them. Imagine that you are applying, you will be having a campus module at the end of your program. And imagine that you apply for a leave with your boss. I mean, and your boss says, no, I can't give you leave. You can't go. You say, all right, I'll not. My boss will say, there must be some reason. Then a couple of months later, you have some wedding that is coming up. Now, a family wedding, and now you are saying that I want to leave, and the boss says, no, I cannot. And this keeps on happening. Now the conflict is you want a leave, your boss doesn't give you a leave. A recurring conflict. Eventually, what are you going to do? The conflict is about leaves. But eventually you are going to start blaming the boss. That my boss is not a good guy. My boss is not good. My boss doesn't care about me. My boss is unfair. So the leaves conflict has converted into the boss conflict. So the task conflict is converted into relationship conflict. Similarly, you want a raise and the boss says, I look into it. A couple of months later, you again say that I want a raise. Your boss says, I look into it. The conflict persists because you are not happy with your salary. When the boss says you are fairly paid, I will look into it. No resolution. Eventually, you will start blaming that your boss or your organization doesn't pay well. You are not going. The issue is about whether I'm paid fairly or not. It's an issue about money, which is outside. But you start blaming the boss. It converts into a relationship. And the badly handled conflict is when you start using words. When a conflict happens, you start using words, statements, or language which, rather than resolving the conflict, aggravates the conflict. Means the kind of language you used, right? And that starts aggravating the conflict. And then it starts creating problems. Good negotiators, and that's why negotiation and conflict management is linked. Negotiation is a process of resolving conflict. So, unless you have a conflict, you cannot negotiate. Negotiation only happens if you have a conflict. And good negotiators invariably remain on this side. They do not let any conflict to turn into a relationship. They will manage the conflicts in a way that they will always operate in the task domain. They will not let it enter into a relationship domain. Because the moment a conflict enters into a relationship domain, it goes into a spiral, which is called a downward spiral. Once you enter into relationship conflict, you start blaming someone, that person starts blaming you, and it never turns out to be better. And then the task conflict is you both sit together and try to resolve the problem that you have. And that's the difference between a good negotiator and a bad. Are we clear about the basics? So there are two types of conflicts, task and relationship. One more issue is conflicts often represent themselves in a confusing mode. So we will not be able to figure out whether a conflict is a task conflict or a relationship. Means there is a potential of any conflict converting himself into a relationship. I'll pause because a couple of your questions. So I'll take those questions and then continue. So Mohammed, you had a question first. So have
Yes, sir.
answered or-
Yes, my I thought maybe you will come back later. That's why I lowered my hand. The thing is that about the behavior and skills we can teach the people later. No problem if they are on the deficient on skills, we can